Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Namita.
How are you?
Good, yeah. Like every day, all the time.
I also want to retire.
You are retired. It's your choice. It can't be too.
Right now, I'm more retarded than retired.
It's all the more better. Baba will come earlier.
Yeah, he'll think I'm must.
I envy you if you are retarded.
I'll send you the link. What email? Yeah, I sent it. Yeah, I can't hear you.
I don't know. Something is. Uh, Karthik is not there. It seems, although he's logged on.
I can see Karthik, but I can't hear him.
Is he reading?
No, he's not reading.
So he's busy with something else.
Yeah, Sunil couldn't get in yet.
Okay, we'll miss it. After this is done, no, you read the main part again. Just read it.
Which is the main part?
The chapters, not the notes, just the chapters.
Okay.
Just read it. That's an instruction for this book by Baba. Whether you
What did he say?
understand, whether you understand or don't understand, you read the entire book at one go. Ideally,
Yeah, I'll do it. Really? Okay. It's a possibility. I'll keep full day to. It is possible. Not these days.
yeah.
Anything is possible.
And you need not understand it. You just read it.
I don't understand.
That's the instruction given by Baba. I'm not talking of my own mind.
Okay.
Hello, I had some audio issues. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm wondering why everybody's ignoring me for a while. Okay, so I've been speaking and I started reading and then I heard Tushar say, "Hey, I don't know where Karthik is." Not okay. I'm sorry. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. We lost some time. Page 94 in the PDF and the physical book. It's 92. I'm just sharing my screen. And I'm starting with the second paragraph. I heard you all, Namita, so I envy you too. So, in the very act of becoming the creator, preservation of all things created follows, and the creator, perforce, simultaneously has to play the role of the preserver Concurrently, in the very act of becoming the preserver, destruction of all things preserved is anticipated. Therefore, all things are
Come, you
inadvertently
want
or
to hear here?
inadvertently preserved, and the preserver therefore establishes in the present future of all things created and preserved, anticipating the inevitable destruction. Requesting all the others to go into mute. God, in his origin,
Sorry, Sunil
yeah.
can't get in.
So that's
Did
another
you
thing
change anything?
I did not, but I saw that I didn't change anything. So it's the same link, but only difference I noticed was it said it asked uh, admit user is what it said. Can you just try again, please?
You want to try again? Sorry about this.
Nomita, please put your mic on mute. A lot of noise.
No, but till we get Sunil on, let's just have her help us. So I don't see him joining. Now I see something. Hold on. Yeah. So this didn't happen till this meeting. This time it's asking me to permit. Yeah, it's asking me to permit everybody, and everybody's waiting in the lobby. So let me play around with the settings if something Microsoft changed. Sorry about that. So we lost a few minutes because of that. Are you able to see my screen? I'm moving to the book now.
Yep.
Great. So I'll start again, which is 92 on the physical book, second paragraph. In the very act of becoming the creator, preservation of all things created follows, and the creator, perforce, simultaneously has to play the role of the preserver. Concurrently, in the very act of becoming the preserver, destruction of all things preserved is anticipated. Therefore, all things are advertently or inadvertently preserved, and the preserver therefore establishes in the present the future of all things created and preserved, anticipating the inevitable destruction. God, in his original infinite divine dream state, eternally plays the three roles of the creator, preserver, and the destroyer simultaneously. When God is in the process of preserving his own infinite creation, he is already at the same time in the future, and having preserved what he created, which has passed, the future is definitely established before him, even in his eternal present. Which future will destroy what he created in the past and what he preserved in the present. Therefore, God, being omniscient and eternally of the present, knows of the past which he eternally preserves as the present, and also at the same time, he constantly experiences in advance, in his eternal present, all that which is of the future. Similarly, God in the man state as man inadvertently witnesses all the time in his dream state that which is also to be experienced in the future of his awake state. Man thus finds that he sometimes has prescience of things that come to pass after a lapse of time. So this is the reference that we were looking for from 2 pages back, where he said he will explain prescience. So similarly, God in the man state, as man, inadvertently witnesses all the time in his dream state that which is also to be experienced in the future of his awake state. Man thus finds that he sometimes has prescience of things that come to pass after a lapse of time. To sum up, in the very act of creation, the acts of preservation and destruction are also present. So, by creating illusion, God, as it were, simultaneously preserves and destroys it. In reality, therefore, nothing is created that remains to be preserved and destroyed, because the created creation is of the nothing, and this nothing in reality means absolutely nothing in all respects. Though this nothing is indeed nothing at all, yet when it is said that the nothing is created by Brahma, preserved by Vishnu, and destroyed by Mahesh or Shiva, it is spoken of only in terms of the infinite illusion. That is, in terms of the infinite dream state of God related to the illusory universe, the Brahmand. In the eternity of reality, there is absolutely no such thing as creation, preservation, or destruction. Neither is there space, nor is there any scope for relativity. Much less could there ever be the correlated factors of time, such as the past, present, and future. In the eternity of reality, the one infinite, eternal, all pervading existence is. In short, when the consciousness of a man makes him experience the impressions of the nothing subconsciously, the man is said to be dreaming a dream. When the consciousness of the man causes him to experience more realistically the impressions of the same nothing full consciously, the man is said to be dreaming yet another dream into the dream, or he is said to be dreaming into the dream, a vacant dream, experiencing the nothing into nothing. Hence, it is said most appropriately that the world and its affairs are nothing into nothing, dream into dream. This means that God, in man's state, experiences the life of a man as a vacant dream into the divine dream, which means creation. Or, in other words, the life of man is yet but another dream of God in the dreaming of his divine dream or the creation. Although God in the man state, before that, let me read the three aspects. Of the three aspects, creator, sustainer, and dissolver, sustainer is the most important because the present, which can sustains the past and the future, is most important. Therefore, Parvardigar, Vishnu, the sustainer, is the most important aspect of God. Although God in the man state has gained full consciousness and falsely experiences the multifarious impressions of the false infinity of nothingness as the reality of the gross world, this full consciousness and these innumerable impressions are all absorbed or gulped in, while God in the man state passes away in the sound sleep state, indirectly asserting his original divine state of divine sound sleep. When God in the man state completely wakes up every day from his sound sleep state, the full consciousness which lay dormant during sound sleep and the multitude of impressions which had vanished.
Karthik, you are not audible.
Others, can you confirm? Is it just your side or?
We can hear.
Okay.
Yeah, I also can hear.
Okay. Maybe you want to just disconnect and reconnect? Or, yeah, removing video as well will improve your bandwidth situation. By the way, I blew up my entire month's quota yesterday. So that's how much of streaming we are doing at home, I guess. So I just bumped it up. So I'll come back. I'll start with the third line in on 94 physical book. When God in the man state completely wakes up every day from his sound sleep state, the full consciousness which lay dormant during sound sleep and the multitude of impressions which had vanished out of sight and out of experience in the sound sleep are now all catapulted out to produce once again the false experiences of the infinite nothing, manifesting as real and infinite nothingness. Mama, can you confirm you're able to hear me?
It is very clear. It's clear. All right, I can
thank
hear
you. Thank you. This unending chain, second para, this unending chain of alternating absorption and ejection of consciousness and impressions in the alternating sound sleep and awake states continues until ultimately all of the impressions are ousted or wiped off clean through the experiencing of the opposite impressions in the processes of reincarnation and involution of consciousness. Thus, impressionless consciousness alone remains to give God the conscious experience of his original, eternal, infinite, real God state. As God invariably gains full and unimpressioned consciousness through the human form, the different states of man may be taken as examples with which to compare the different states of God. The sound sleep state of God in the man state, not only resembles the divine sound sleep state of God, but is literally the same original divine sound sleep state of God in the beyond state of God is, where unbounded absolute vacuum prevails. This is what Kama was telling us a couple of days back. So he's explaining that further in the footnote, and I read, there is a profound and very real relationship between God realization and sound sleep. The eternal desire of the soul is to become one with God. But because consciousness attaches itself to the gross, the soul seems to become one merely with the gross. In the stone state, for example, gross consciousness makes the soul identify itself with the stone, although in reality, the soul is all the time one with God. To make this clearer, let us suppose that you take opium or an intoxicating drink. You feel elated or depressed, although there is no radical change in your body, and it is only the consciousness that is affected and gives rise to your feelings. Thus, you, as an individual soul, are 24 hours within and one with God, although you feel merely gross conscious. Again, let us suppose that you feel tired and fed up and that you go to sleep. What is it that you're trying to do? It is nothing but to try to take refuge in God, your natural and inherent state. The whole creation, therefore, has this conscious or unconscious tendency to take shelter in God, the oversoul, by entering the state of sound sleep for a time. So feel less guilty the next time you feel sleepy. So this is what I was wondering we didn't see. So this is the diagram that already we were walked through by Nomita yesterday, and the one with the quote. So let's just see it again. Realm of perfection is on the top. At the bottom is the realm of illusion, Atma's ordinary dream state, Atma's ordinary awake state, Atma semi-false conscious, soul subconscious state, realm of illusion. And then you go to our unconscious sound sleep state. Atma is fully conscious, but the soul's original conscious, unconscious state. And then Atma's divine dream state. The Atma is semi-real conscious, and the soul experiences subtle and mental planes. From there, you go to the realm of reality, Atma's divine awake state. The Atma is fully and really conscious, God conscious unitive state. And then realm of perfection, Atma is fully conscious of real and false, living in, with God, with and as God. And Atma fully and simultaneously conscious of real and false, God-man state, man-God state, and it means perfection, the Sadguru state, right? So with that, I will continue. Page 95 in the physical book. When man passes away in the sound sleep state, absolute vacuum and no consciousness prevails. And though the self in man continues to breathe normally, Yet in that self of man, there is no consciousness of its limited I or ego, nor is there consciousness of the limited mind, energy, body, or the world. The self in man is not even conscious of its own being. In short, in the sound sleep state of man, the self is and consciousness is not. When a man wakes up daily from his sound sleep state, he normally just wakes up for no reason whatsoever, except that his own dormant consciousness of impressions urges or excites his subconsciousness to eject out of the consciousness and experience the dormant impressions which apparently vanish in sound sleep. Therefore, as soon as the man wakes up, he invariably and simultaneously gains consciousness at first of his surroundings and gradually then of his own self with all of its paraphernalia of the limited I, the mind, energy, the body, and the world. Similarly, no rhyme, no reason, and no cause other than the original infinite whim of the absolutely independent God was the actual cause, the original cause. For God in the original divine sound sleep state to wake up out of the unbounded original vacuum. Just as a man, I just have one doubt. So the dormant consciousness of impressions urges or excites, because he said something makes you get out. So that is nothing but his own dormant. Sorry about that. I was going back to this one line. I'll read it again. When a man wakes up daily from his sound sleep state, he normally just wakes up for no reason whatsoever, except that his own dormant consciousness of impressions urges or excites his subconscious to eject out of the consciousness and experience the dormant impressions which apparently vanish in sound sleep. Right? So just as a man who wakes up from his sound sleep state has invariably to pass through the state of dreaming first and then wake up completely, gaining full consciousness after the semi-conscious state of the dream, which may last for a very long duration or may last only for a split second. So too is it with the case with God in the God is state. Before completely waking up from his original divine sound sleep state, God necessarily experiences the divine semi-conscious state, which is the divine dream state or the creator state. The original infinite whim, as the cause, manifested the first trickle of most finite consciousness in God. This most finite consciousness made God, now in a semi-conscious state, experience through subconsciousness the most finite impression of the latent nothing, which was also manifested as nothingness. This experience of the most finite first impression of nothingness began the divine dream, the creation of the universe. So that's what. So he's saying, see the chart real awakening facing this page. Okay, the first trickle of consciousness in the God is state infused God with the divine subconsciousness, which in turn bestowed the divine semi-consciousness state upon God, who was in the divine sound sleep state. In this divine semi-conscious state, God dreams divinely and experiences the divine dream or the creation much before the real divine awakening state, which state, awakening him completely, would give him the experience of God, fully conscious of his infinite, unbounded, and unlimited divine nature. This divine subconsciousness of God also emerged from the nothing, which was latent in the God is state of the everything, and necessarily was projected through the creation point or Om point in the original absolute vacuum of the everything. The very vibrations of the projection of the divine subconsciousness of God through the creation point in the original absolute vacuum bestirred the divine sound sleep state of God and made manifest the original breath of God or the original word, the divine Nad, together with space, time, and the cosmic universe, with all of its paraphernalia of the limited and finite ego, mind, energy, and the individual and multiple forms. As the projection of the infinite divine subconsciousness of God in the divine dream state gathers momentum, the divine dream or the creation begins to evolve, and God in the divine semi conscious state not only begins to experience the divine dream, but simultaneously gets involved in his dream by identifying and associating himself with all the things which he experiences in the field of cosmic evolution. When the infinite divine subconsciousness of God has projected infinitely through the creation point in the absolute vacuum, the whole creation projects forth gradually and evolves in size, shape, form, color, and so forth in accordance with the intensity of the projection of the divine subconsciousness. At this stage, God, in the beyond state of divine sound sleep, is just aroused from the divine sound sleep, not completely, but semi consciously, even after the complete emergence of the divine, infinite subconsciousness that was latent in God. You want me to pause to discuss? So actually the chart there is very, very briefly described. So I'm hoping there's more coverage there, because that could answer some of the semantic confusions that we had last morning, right? So he's specifically referring only to Atma on the left side, left column completely. So we'll get there. God being now in the more evolved divine semi-conscious state experiences more forcefully the divine dream and also identifies and associates himself more intensely with his own creation. Gradually, though now more forcefully, God experiences himself as everything in the cosmic evolution and identifies himself with the universes, the airs, the inanimate and animate beings, such as stones, metals, vegetation, birds, worms, fishes, animals, and human beings. God, in this way, receives apparently real but really false answers to his first word, who am I? Such as I am stone, I am metal, and so forth, and finally obtains the answer I am man, I am woman. When God identifies himself with human beings, he is no longer semi conscious. Because at this stage in the divine dream state, as soon as God identifies himself with a human form, he gains full consciousness. Full consciousness, now having been gained, this consciousness ought to dispel all dreams and cause God to experience the real awake state, giving him the realization that he is God. At this stage, although God identifies himself with human beings, and although God is now fully conscious with a feeling of greatest awareness, yet God has not realized his real divine awake state, because the full consciousness thus far gained is of the nothingness of the nothing, which was latent and which is now manifested apparently as everything, though the projection of his own divine through the projection of his own divine infinite subconsciousness. This leads God to identify himself with his projected creation rather than to become conscious of himself as the real everything and of his own identity as God. In short, this is the stage at which God, while identifying himself with human beings in full consciousness, still remains quite oblivious of his own real and original state of God is. He describes awareness, and I will read that footnote first. Before attaining human form, there is consciousness, but not awareness. In sound sleep, there is neither consciousness nor awareness. Till the sixth plane, there is awareness. In the seventh plane, there is only consciousness. Even in this state of full consciousness, God still continues to experience the world of his own creation and with the greatest awareness simultaneously continues to identify himself with human beings, thus finding himself sometimes as man and sometimes as woman according to the predominance of impressions which are opposite in nature. In other words, God in the man state, although fully conscious and completely aware, experiences himself not as God in the God is state, but as man in the human state, not as infinite, but as finite. The paradoxical irony.
Can you read that consciousness and awareness part again? I think it's very important.
Sure.
For me.
Just the footnote, or shall I go up to the paragraph where he refers it? So
He goes up to 6th plane, right? That whole thing.
correct. Okay, the footnote. So if you read the footnote again, before attaining human form, there is consciousness but not awareness. In sound sleep, there is neither consciousness nor awareness. Till the 6th plane, there is awareness. In the 7th plane, there is only consciousness. Now, only at the human form does he get the first. Yeah, I'll read the line where he refers that. At this stage, although God identifies himself with human beings, and although God is now fully conscious with a feeling of greatest awareness. So, only when it comes to the human forms, the consciousness is fully developed and awareness exists. And the awareness continues till we go to the 7th plane where awareness is not there and it's only consciousness.
So this has been explained pretty well by Baba. There's a lot of confusion between the two words. And now here we know what's the real meaning of awareness and consciousness. This I have been searching for many years. And I intuitively knew there is a difference, but people are interchangeably using these words.
But I'm still not sure what's the difference between the two.
Yes, yes.
I think
What is
he
the
has,
actual difference?
he has explained, no, here.
No, he is not. He is only saying before attaining human. So let me go back to the para where he makes this footnote. So before that, he has not used the word awareness. I agree with you.
Yeah.
At this stage, I'm reading in the 4th paragraph, 3rd line. At this stage, although God identifies himself with human beings, and although God is now fully conscious with a feeling of greatest awareness, yet God has not realized his real divine awake state because the full consciousness thus far gained is of the nothingness of the nothing, which was latent and which is now manifested apparently as everything through the projection of his own divine infinite subconsciousness. So I'm still not clear on the difference between awareness and consciousness. Anybody else?
Well, I think that there is confusion between being conscious and consciousness. In discourses, there is a particular chapter, I think, God as man or something like that. There's a very interesting, it's a very interesting chapter where he talks about consummate consciousness and stuff like that. So, we have been dealing with infinite consciousness, finite consciousness, and so on and so forth. Now, consciousness arises after the whim. Okay.
After the whim.
Okay. So, which means that consciousness is there from the gas stone stage up till the human stage in different degrees.
Yeah.
So, in human form, it reaches, let's say, 360 degrees. 0, 90, 180, 270, 360, full consciousness. Not only that, but in human form, consciousness also comes with awareness. So awareness is a form of, being conscious of your consciousness, let's say, of your, being self-conscious, self-consciousness. So in a way, I believe that awareness is like in being stage, not becoming stage. Self-awareness is almost like self-actualization, self-illumination, self-love. So this is my understanding about awareness as such.
No, I'm also hoping that he describes this further, because this is the first time he's using the word, right? Or am I wrong?
Yesterday, I think we were talking of the same thing, and what just Kama said just now, 360 degrees, that is mere consciousness. This after coming to human form, the self-consciousness starts. Okay, the difference consciousness and self-consciousness. Self-consciousness will be infinite. Consciousness merely will be finite.
Correct.
Yeah. This was I think mainly the difference point yesterday when we're talking of semantics.
Yeah, correct. Even I'll start with the last paragraph again, if for continuity's sake. Last paragraph 97. Even in this state of full consciousness, God still continues to experience the world of his own creation, and with the greatest awareness, simultaneously continues to identify himself with human beings, thus finding himself sometimes as man and sometimes as woman, according to the predominance of impressions which are opposite in nature. In other words, God in the man state, although fully conscious and completely aware, experiences himself not as God in the God is state, but as man in the human state, not as infinite, but as finite. So I think, Kama, you were spot on. You were spot on, right? So he's explaining it very clearly here. Even in this state of full consciousness, God still continues to experience the world of his own creation, and with greatest awareness simultaneously continues to identify himself with human beings. So, thus finding himself sometimes as man and sometimes as woman, according to the predominance of impressions which are opposite in nature. In other words, God in the man state, although fully conscious and completely aware, experiences himself not as God in the God is state, but as man in the human state, not as infinite, but as finite.
Now here, when he's talking complete consciousness, it's the complete consciousness of the sanskaras. Understand this difference. Okay, in the human state is first time becoming self-conscious, but it's not complete. That's the reason he's going right up to the seven principles and attaining the final oneness. He's removing the separateness. Okay.
Correct.
My point.
Can we think in terms of awareness being part of illusion and consciousness is beyond that?
No, I'm now not talking of awareness and consciousness. I'm talking of.
Because we lose awareness at the sixth plane and only consciousness remains. So what we lose through all these planes is
Illusion.
actually the illusion.
Exactly. So you become self-conscious. You understand?
So that's
Yes.
that's what I think is the summary, right? Your awareness is only linked to
When-
recognition.
Illusion. Yes.
When he's
Yeah.
talking of partial consciousness, right through different forms below human being, he's talking of just consciousness of the sanskaras. Okay. In human form, it's the first time he is becoming self-conscious, which is not true for the forms below that.
Correct.
So that was the, difference yesterday also. I was talking of self-consciousness. When human being becomes fully conscious, but conscious of sanskaras, not of self-consciousness. He's just beginning to become conscious of self.
Sure.
Am I clear about this?
The human beings are up to the seventh plane, or on what plane is there a difference between God and human beings?
Okay.
No,
Human form is achieved at the gross plane.
If we look at the chart one,
Yeah.
consciousness of self goes up to the seventh plane, and then we see God at the top.
Chart 1, is it? Okay.
Yeah, chart 1, which is page 54.
Let me open up the diagram we have now. Oh no, this is chart 2. Sorry.
It's in the book.
Yeah, I'll get back to 54.
55, just go next
Yeah,
page.
yeah.
Yeah, this one I was referring to. So how do we relate this to human form? Up to which plane? And I see God at the top, which is very clear.
Yeah, so first plane.
First
Okay,
plane.
after transcending the animal form.
I see. So
No,
just
in
That
fact,
is where the self-consciousness begins. Up to that form,
begins.
self-consciousness is not there. It's only mere consciousness, which is when he says full consciousness, that is not self-consciousness. Full consciousness of the sanskaras, basically.
I see.
This is my
no, but to
interpretation.
Sunil's question,
Yeah.
once you reach the state of full consciousness and the beginning of awareness, it is in the human form. That's at the bottom of this diagram, the first plane. But the thing is, from here right through the journey about to the seventh plane, the gross form continues to be a human being.
No, it drops. By seventh plane, everything is dropped. It's
No,
only self-consciousness. You are one with Paramatma, almost. If you see that diagram 10, you will
diagram,
understand.
the one we
See,
were seeing today.
no, diagram 10 yesterday with circles.
I don't know which one is diagram 10. Give me a page number. This one.
With the circles.
The one we saw today, is that the one you're talking about?
No. The diagram with circles is opposite to 226, page 226, chart 10.
I think it's in the other format. I mean in this one.
Yep. Getting there.
226.
Yes, getting there. Yeah. Okay. The divine theme chart.
No, next chart.
226.
Ah.
Okay.
Just after 226.
Yeah.
Just observe the first one. That is what the stone. Yeah, stones and metals. Just observe that and come to the human evolution and involution.
Yeah.
Now here he is talking of what I have defined as individuality. He's mentioned individuality here. It's up to the third inner circle.
Correct.
See, seat of individuality. Okay, just see which circle is that. It's a third. So everywhere it is third.
Yeah. Here.
Third
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah. My point was the connection of human form up to which stage, up to which plane. I think this picture
Sixth
shows
plane.
up to seventh plane.
Sixth plane.
Seventh also has a human form, gross body.
I think the human form, that is gross body, is dropped as soon as you attain the fifth.
You look at the blue circle on the right side, it has a gross body, and I think this is the seventh plane.
Yes. So I think that's what I was getting to.
No,
So
that's not realized. That's not the same.
no,
It
that's
is
only
just
at
a
the subtle plane and the mental plane, right? So let's take an example, right? So if you are making that journey in one lifetime between a birth death context, right? The gross body continues to exist even though I have transcended the planes. Is that a
Yes.
fair understanding?
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
So,
See,
so what
gross-
Sunil is
gross and-
saying is right, which is it goes right up to the seventh plane. Gross body exists.
Absolutely. I will give you some clarification. There is the Sadguru, the perfect master who is in the seventh plane. He is not only God conscious, but he's also has gross consciousness. So what happens is, when all these self-realized beings, as you go further, you will hear that there are 56 self-realized beings on earth at the time, and only
Right.
out of 56, only 5 are perfect masters,
Perfect
and
master.
perfect
Correct.
masters are in Sahaja Samadhi, and the rest are in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, or what you call it in the Madzub stage. That is why yesterday I had pointed out that page number 278. So they all have the gross form. They use the gross body, but they are not in the gross plane.
Right.
Okay,
Correct.
the
Every
difference,
every
the
human being
difference.
going through involution stage, you will hear that there are about 7,000 beings on the from the first plane to the seventh plane, like about 7,000 approximately. Each one of them in different planes, in different spheres. Okay, that is the subtle sphere and the mental sphere, but on different planes. In fact, in the discourses, it was also discussed that between each plane there are 7 degrees. In each plane when you cross. So there are actually 49 degrees of freedom. But anyway, so the answer here is that the gross body exists whether you are in the first plane or the seventh plane, as
Exactly.
long as you are living on planet Earth.
Perfect.
Right.
Now here, let me clarify this. Please bifurcate the two, the conscious and the bodies. Okay, there
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Please,
Agree.
yeah. So you can attain the seventh consciousness yet being in the gross body. Now, Sunil's question is having to drop the gross body. Gross body can be dropped only after the sanskaras are over. That would be transcending the mental plane in terms of body, not consciousness.
Right.
The difference is what Kama explained is talking of consciousness. I am talking of body because it is related to body. Even if you are realized, even if you are realized being and yet you have not finished your sanskaras, until you complete your sanskaras, you will be reincarnated.
Correct. So that's the point Kama is also saying, and we all agree that the process of involution uses a gross form till the very end. The
Yeah, so
body exists. Yeah.
but bifurcating all these things will make you understand better. That's what I'm saying.
True. And
Sure.
I hope the future
Have,
pages will
have
give us
you
more clarity.
have you understood, Sunil?
Yes, I got clearer. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
No, just don't say for the sake of it. Please
No, I'm not. I'm
understand for
trying to.
understanding. Yeah.
Yes,
Be frank. We don't have to be using any etiquettes here.
No. I got.
When you say I don't know, it's the best state to be in.
Right.
I don't know.
But did we understand your question first? That is the important thing.
Yes, it was the correct question that you answered. The linkage of physical state of the cross body with the planes and progression, right up to the God. And then I was thinking, when God is coming into the human form, which is getting described in today's chapter, is he coming to the seventh plane or is coming to the first plane? So it looks like he's coming to the first plane.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
it's not the plane, it's the body.
Is the body okay?
Please,
No,
yeah.
it's
Please
not
use
even the first plane actually. So it comes in from the reincarnation state itself. The
Right.
consciousness is fully aware,
Fully
and
aware.
yeah, but
I'm
then
not
once
talking. I'm not talking of consciousness. I'm talking of the body. The seven principles of bodies. They are different from seven planes of consciousness. Be very clear about these two.
No,
If you
What
understand
are the 7 principles of the body? I'm sorry. What are you saying? 7 principles of body. What?
and seven planes of consciousness, they are two different things.
But there are no 7 bodies. There is only gross body, subtle body, and mental body.
There are seven bodies. Actually, there are seven principles.
That
Okay,
is,
that is somewhat
you
different.
are talking in terms of Vedanta.
Right.
No,
Seventh-
even here it is given. See, causal body, Baba has mentioned causal body. Causal body is the final stage where your body will remain. I mean,
Now, can I put my ideas into this?
yeah.
Sure.
Baba was born as a gross body, as a normal human being. He went through the process of awakening, and then he reached the seventh plane in his gross body. So he is the God in man form.
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
There
I
is no
think he could have
reincarnation.
been conscious of the, see, he could have been conscious of the seventh plane also, but I think he is not transcended the nirvanic plane as we call it generally. Okay. Even Buddha came back from the nirvanic plane because he didn't want to go to nirvana without helping all his people. That is why he took reincarnations. I mean, avatars.
Avatar.
Yeah, he came in several avatars, Buddha himself. So he did not, once you attain nirvanic plane, you cannot come back in the human form.
Okay, I think just a
let me
request
clarify
here.
this.
Just a request here, and it may be just because of the discussions we are having today and yesterday. I think for the purposes of our journey in this medium and for this group and this set of classes that we're doing, restricting it for simplicity to discourses and Baba's words would be
Right.
safer and easier. Because I think as much as we respect all the other bodies of knowledge, bodies of philosophy, which are good, the especially I'm talking for myself. Now I'm confused if there are seven bodies. Now I'm just about wrapping my head around three. Okay, so I would rather
I think
go
we have
with the
talked,
so
we have talked in
as
Calcutta regarding this, right?
no, as we go, as we
Yeah,
mature
yeah.
through this
I'll
process,
keep
we will
myself in
get
mute for the rest of the sessions.
no, no,
Please.
no.
No.
No, I had decided this yesterday.
No, no, we want you to
Because I just want to read this, and because I am not reading anything further about Baba. I am very clear about it. So I will be participating, but of course my vistas are much bigger.
much broader. So that's what
Yeah,
I'm
much broader.
appreciating. I'm recognizing that.
That's the reason I have not surrendered so far. I
Correct.
don't believe in the path of surrender.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Baba is a huge guide for me, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will start from where we left off, which is the 98th physical page, second para. I have a hard stop in 5 minutes. I have a call I have to jump into at 9. So I'll stop exactly at 9 today. Yeah.
Sure.
Paradoxical irony is that God, the real now, finds false creation as real, having lost his own reality in illusion and having made his own reality an obstacle to experiencing reality. Now, he uses small and big real, so I will read it again. The paradoxical irony is that God, the big R real, now finds false creation as real, the small r, having lost his own reality in illusion and having made his own reality an obstacle to experiencing the big R reality. In order that God in man should experience himself as God in reality, the projection of the full consciousness of God, which is now fixed on man, should be so drawn inward that the same full consciousness which, when projected outward, identified God as man, should now identify him as himself. This is realization of the God state, and this realization is the divine goal which alone brings about the end of the divine dream. Attainment of the divine goal would mean that at this stage, God in man, through the gradual process of involution of consciousness, should eventually experience the passing away in that original divine sound sleep state of absolute vacuum, while retaining the legacy of the full consciousness which has been gained. Thus, God would be able to realize his eternal I am God state consciously, whereupon, attaining his original state consciously, God would experience his own divine eternal existence and his own divine nature, which is the everything, infinite and real. And so at last get the real answer to his first word or question of who am I as I am God. To make it clear, to attain the divine goal with full consciousness evolved, the human conscious God strives through further experiences by the process of reincarnation to withdraw inwards towards himself the already projected full consciousness which he gained as soon as he identified himself with the first human form in his divine dream. As the stage of the beginning of the end of the divine dream approaches, the full consciousness of God, which experiences the false state in the human form, through the process of involution to withdraw inwards onto himself this fully evolved consciousness, which is projecting outwards onto all things in the cosmic universe rather than onto himself. In order to describe the various stages by which the complete unconsciousness of God in his original sound state gradually projected full consciousness through the process of evolution of consciousness, and how the projected consciousness was eventually withdrawn inwards through the process of involution of consciousness after numerous reincarnations before actually experiencing the real divine awake state of I am God. Let the different stages be visualized step by step, comparing each stage of gradual gain in consciousness of God with the relative states of a normally conscious man who is at first in sound sleep and then who subsequently gains consciousness enough to realize eventually his ordinary awake state every day. So with that, we go through each of the stages, which I think we defer to tomorrow. I have one little story that I remember. I don't know if it was a Baba anecdote. I'll probably end with that, and that's where I am. So I don't know if it's a Baba story or I heard it elsewhere, but the story goes, when you're in the path, right? So when you're trying to go towards spiritual awakening and self-realization, you're basically hunting for water and you're digging a well, right? So I want to dig a well in the same spot and go deeper first. Maybe after getting some water, we'll look around and try to dig other spots. Right now, my spot is Meher Baba, and I'm digging deep. Is what
Yes.
I was thinking about. Right? That was on a lighter note.
Yeah.
Same for me. This lifetime, I think I'm sold.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't know about
That's
the
a good one. With that, I think we'll close. Any other comments? So I think he's going to describe the diagram we already saw. So this is where he's starting with the stages. So I look forward to the discussion and continuing this tomorrow.
Yes. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you.